Little clapping. 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3. I think we're saved. I like it. Now let's make a nice vocal sound, breathe. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. All right. Pick it up. Come on, clap on this. Little foot stomping. Yeah. Come on. Crank it, baby. Somebody say, oh. Surf's up. Come on.
There's a whole discourse online about who can and can't, does and does not know how to clap. You all are fine. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Fork. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every being. We honor each person's search for truth and meaning, encourage peace, compassion, equity, and justice for all. We remember the Native Americans pushed off this land by European farmers. And we remember the people captured in Africa, brought in chains to work this land, and then released to a freedom haunted with terror and injustice. We are committed to healing the pain of our past and our present. In our actions outside these walls, we help those in need, the homeless, the hungry, the marginalized, recognizing that the whole world is our neighbor, whom we are called to love. Here in our worship together, the rituals we practice, the songs we sing, bind these commitments as a community. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, whatever your name for the sacred, you are very welcome to bring your full self here. I am the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. Our musician this morning is Jim Turner.
Thank you.
The thing about warming you up with clapping is that you get into the practice right from the start. I think this is a clapping Sunday. Our tech hosts this morning are Monica, who is running our camera, and Carl, who is hosting on Zoom. If you are on Zoom, please know that you have access to live transcript, closed captioning, and if you are joining us here in the meeting house, hearing assisted devices, if those are helpful to you. I have a few announcements. Tomorrow, Monday, it is our monthly 11s gathering here at the meeting house, which is just sometime at 11 o'clock to have your first meal or your second meal that happens between breakfast and lunch, but really just to gather here for community and conversation with no agenda. The purpose of which is only for us to know each other a little better and a little more intimately. On Wednesday evening, we are finalizing our Prophetic Voices series. These have been public theologians who reflect the values that we are trying to inhabit here. And so Wednesday, we finish up with Abraham Joshua Heschel. And then on Sunday at noon, after our service, we are having a workshop exploring love languages. How do you love, and how do you want others to grow in love with you? I think there might be an announcement from the board, but there's not. All right. I'm loosening up on how we take announcements. If you do have an announcement that you would like to share, please get it to the office no later than Tuesday of the week that you'd like to share it. And you can find these announcements, how to connect to these events, and other things that are happening here at the Meeting House on our website and also in our e-bulletin, which arrives in your mailbox on Thursdays. Do we have any visitors who would like to introduce yourselves? Yes. Yes. That was the announcement. It wasn't the board, it was you.
Hi, my name is Carol, and Eva and I are collecting pictures of Gene Wisner that you might have in your archive somewhere. Say again?
Can you remind me who Gene Wisner is?
Oh, Gene Wisner was a member of, well, is still a member of our congregation for, golly, how many years, Pam? Oh, it's one of the original founders of our congregation, and she's in a nursing home now. And we'd like to take pictures of her to remind her that we still love her and that we're thinking of her. So if you, it might be a picture of her with a group of people, that doesn't matter, or you alone with her or her alone, any kind of pictures. Could you get them to either Eva or myself? Thank you.
That was exactly the announcement I was thinking of. Thank you. Do we have any visitors who'd like to introduce yourselves? If you are visiting in person or online, we hope that you will sign our guest book in the fellowship hall or use the link in your chat to sign our virtual guest book. That's how we are able to stay in touch with you and let you know what's happening here at our meeting house and with our congregation. We're continuing this morning with our theme for the month of resilience. This morning's service celebrates Black History Month, whose theme for the year is resistance. And so we consider not only Black history, but Black futures. We light our chalice this morning, a symbol of our faith. I need somebody to light our chalice this morning. With these words from Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes is a champion, hero, star of the Harlem Renaissance. He wrote these words in the 1920s when he was 17 years old. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised up pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. This first song that we'll sing together in your teal hymnal, it's 1007, There's a River Flowing in My Soul. This song, it is the first of 3 spirituals that we will sing today. People think of spirituals as themselves a little ancient. This was written by Faya Ora Rose Touré. She was a civil rights leader, an attorney, the first African-American woman judge in Alabama. This song is less than 50 years old. There's a river flowing in my soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind.
And thank you, Kent, for helping us with that song. Kent's going to help us with all of these songs. So our first message today is a little bit of a story, but it really is some thinking on why Black history matters. If you have been paying attention, you might actually realize this is the first time that we've done anything in the 8 years that I've been here for Black History Month, that I've done anything for Black History Month. Yes, and so some folks have not been paying attention, and you're saying, really? Yes, really. Because I on one hand, I take Black history for granted. I take it for granted that people have the depth of knowledge and connection to Black History Month that I do. But I also am one of those people who says, why do we get the shortest month of the year? We should be studying Black history and Black culture and Black heritage all year long. That is true. And also, it matters that we actually take the time for dedicated attention and study and recognition of what Black history is and why Black history is still something worth paying attention to. I grew up, as long as I have known, Black history has been a thing, or Black History Month has been a thing. In schools, during the month, we would get the posters and we'd learn about people like George Washington Carver, who did not invent peanuts, but did invent and discover so many uses for peanuts. Louis Latimer, who helped improve upon the light bulb. Garrett Morgan, who invented the traffic light. No kidding. The fake news of Eli Whitney, who did invent the cotton gin, but was not Black. Many people still think that he was. But also people like Madam C.J. Walker, who was an entrepreneur and the first Black millionaire or billionaire, made a lot of money with hair care products. But also, this is not just about vanity, it really is. It was about things like respectability. but also things like care and dignity and community. Phyllis Wheatley, poet, first published Black poet, Zora Neale Hurston, author who did so much to tell the stories of Black people, especially in the South, in their own language. People like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, who most of us know, liberators, or Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, Charles Drew, who revolutionized the way we are able to use blood and blood plasma. We would not have blood banks without him. Martin Luther King, or Malcolm X in the more radical schools, Rosa Parks. I grew up learning about exceptional Black people who made a contribution to this country. But I also grew up in a household where we learned that Black people were not only exceptional Black people who got written about and made posters of for school walls. We read books by J.A. Rogers and Carter G. Woodson, who told the stories of everyday Black people, the histories of everyday Black people in this country and in this world, in a way that made me know that I mattered, that it mattered that I'm here, that not only do I have something to contribute, I'm expected to contribute it, and it may not be welcomed, but that it's valuable anyway. And so this year, when there is so much hubbub around the study of AP, Advanced Placement, African American Studies, this attack on what is taught in public schools, I don't think I can continue to say Black history is not a thing worth my or our time. Because clearly it is, because clearly it is a thing that though it has existed for 50 years, is still worth fighting for. It started as a Black History Week in February, and it was founded by Carter G. Woodson. He was an historian. He founded this week, and it was in February because it was intended to be close to the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, for the study of Black life and Black history and the contributions of Black people to American history. It was in the 70s that students at Kent State in Ohio fought for it to be not just a week, but a month. And 1976, when President Gerald Ford made Black history not just a week, but a month. Don't ever say that President Ford didn't do anything for us. The claim around African American studies is that we don't want to have something in our schools that politicizes race. We don't want a history that is political. The fact is, the truth is, history is political. It matters. Say it. You can say amen out loud.
Yeah.
It matters what we teach, who we teach about, and how we teach it. History is political, and education is political. When Woodson was creating Black History Month and championing the idea of Black history, he wrote, "History shows that it does not matter who is in power. Those who have not learned to do for themselves and have to depend solely on others never obtain any more rights or privileges in the end than they did in the beginning." He continued, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and he will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education has made it necessary. It matters what we teach. It matters what histories we learn, what histories we carry on. History is political, and education is political, and culture is political. I wanted to share this other poem with you. There are a lot of poems. From Sonia Sanchez, she writes, "This is not a small voice. This is not a small voice you hear. This is a large voice coming out of these cities. This is the voice of Latanya, Khadijah, Shaniqua. This is the voice of Antoine, Daryl, Shaquille, running over waters, navigating the hallways of our schools, spilling out on the corners in our cities, and no epitaphs spill out the river of their mouths. This is not a small love you hear. This is a larger love, a passion for kissing learning on its face. This is a love that crowns the feet with hands, that nourishes, conceives, feels the water sails, mends the children, folds them inside our history, where they toast more than flesh, where they suck the bones of the alphabet and spit out closed vowels. This is a love colored with iron and lace. This is a love initialed Black genius. This is not a small voice you hear. Whitson says that real education, one that inspires people, he encouraged us to have a real education, one that inspires people to live more abundantly, to learn to begin with life as they find it, to begin with life as we find it, and make it better. So may your roots grow deep. May your branches spread far. May you find this world to be a wonderful place where there is always more history to uncover, and leave it better for those who follow. There's a small change in our order. Typically, we would sing our children off to childcare after this, but we thought it might be nice to have them included in our offering. Our offering is one of the ways that we express who we are as a faith. It is our giving. We give of our time and our talent, but we also give of our treasure so that the work that happens in these walls is able to continue, and so that the work that we do outside of these walls is able to happen. And so your contribution, all of us, whatever age we are, helps to grow who we are in the world. If you're here in the meeting house, there's a basket that will circulate. If you're joining us online, you can use the PayPal link, or you can use the QR code on your order of service, and your contributions will be gratefully received. Thank you so much. This is the point in our service when we sing our children off to childcare with Kim and her helper Amy. And as always, children of all ages are welcome to stay in the sanctuary for the entirety of the service. We'll sing with the words in your order of service. Go now in peace. As we enter into this more prayerful moment, we set aside the mundane concerns of our day to share the deep joy, sorrow, and concerns of our hearts. If you're joining us in the meeting house, you should walk up to the microphone so that everybody can hear you. And if you're joining us on Zoom, please unmute yourself. You may need to ask to be unmuted so you could raise your hand either physically or with the reaction button on your screen. As we deepen even further into this time of meditation and reflection, I invite you to take a breath. Take a breath. Let your body relax if you can. These words are new from my friend and colleague, Reverend Teresa Ninan Soto. They write about Assata Shakur, who is a political activist. She was a member of the Black Liberation Army, a more militant offshoot of the Black Panther Party, and is now still a political asylum in Cuba. One of the quotes that Shakur is most known for, especially most known for contemporarily, are the words, "It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains." And so Reverend Soto writes this: when she said it is our duty to fight for our freedom, what Assata Shakur meant was something like, you are worth your life. It is not for someone else. And the thing of most value that you may do is live, also not die. When Assata Shakur said fight, she also meant stay. Plant your feet, root your wheels, anchor your glides, charge your batteries, and stay. And fight doesn't mean guns and bombs and knives in its entirety. It also means hold your truth non-negotiable and protect its honor and its beauty. It is also our duty, purpose, and destiny to win. Win comes after fight, stay, and it means something like all of us have helped all of us to make it. Let's sing together another one of those spirituals. This one, like the other, is a zipper song. It's 1040 in your teal hymnal. the way the zipper songs work is you can use the words in your hymnal or your chat, but really everything stays the same except for one word in each verse.
Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom, somebody's calling my name. Somebody's calling my name. Like freedom, somebody's calling my name. Oh, my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Sounds like justice, somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice, somebody's calling my name. My name. Oh, my Lord, oh, my Lord, what shall I do? So 2 and 3? Oh, there are 4 and 5. Look at that.
Because soon one morning, trouble comes knocking at my door.
Jeff come creeping in my room. That's fine. Soon one morning, Death comes creeping in my room. Morning, Death comes creeping. One morning, Death comes creeping in my room. Oh, my Lord, what shall I do?
This last one matters. I'm so glad trouble don't last always.
I'm so glad troubles don't last always. I'm so glad troubles don't last always. I'm so glad troubles don't last always. Oh, my Lord, oh, my Lord, what's wrong? Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, calling my name. Oh, my Lord, oh, my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Amen. Hallelujah.
Can't sleep on the best part of the song. So Black history is important, and Black futures are more important. Despite the movement for Black Lives Matter movement, we still saw Tyree Nichols murdered in the street by police officers. And then people who were supposed to help something that never should have happened in the first place stood by and did nothing. So more than a decade ago, after Trayvon Martin was killed, I think I said this here before, my nephew, who is Black, who was maybe 9 at the time, said to his parents, I want to live in London. I want to live in London because this country is not safe for Black people. He was 9. Because even still now in this country, one of the most wealthy in the world, the Black maternal mortality rate is 3 times that of other women and rising. The Black infant mortality rate is twice that of other babies and also rising. And so what does it mean to imagine a future, not just a history, but a future for Black people in this country and in the world? If you are a sci-fi person, people are shaking their heads. If you're a sci-fi person, then you might be familiar with this joke, right? When you see a sci-fi movie and there is a Black character, we all know. First of all, if there is a Black character, because they are so rarely in our imaginations of the future or of space or what we imagine, and when they are there, we can rest assured that they are going to be the first ones to die. And I turn to sci-fi, though. It's a joke. It's a funny, not funny joke. Because sci-fi it is a reflection of what we can imagine and of what we experience. I wanted to also share this other poem for you from Lucille Clifton. Lucille Clifton, Black woman poet. She writes, "Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up. Here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight to the other. Come, celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed." Lucille Clifton kind of imagines for us a Black future. She imagines a kind of Black survival, a resilience, a resistance. Afrofuturism, though, Afrofuturism is more than just survival and resistance and resilience. It is an expansive imagination of Black people in the future who are free, who are wholly human, who are unbound by all of the ways that we are bound here on this planet in this presence. If we're looking at literature, at speculative and science fiction, it looks like Octavia Butler. I'm glad you know Octavia Butler. If you're watching Kindred on Hulu, that is Octavia Butler. Or N.K. Jemisin, or Ndedi Okafor, Nalo Hopkinson, even Colson Whitehead, our own Colson Whitehead. It is difficult to imagine Black futures in reality, and so literature makes space for that kind of imagination. But it also gives voice to a perspective of people here who through their experience can offer a warning to us of the danger of the ways that we are living now, ways that shut off and restrict and confine and oppress people. They offer an often bleak and apocalyptic look at what a future looks like if that is the way that we continue to live. In music, it looks like Parliament and their P-Funk Funkadelic in the 70s. It looks like Grace Jones, who for the past 50 years have been really holding it down. And before there was anybody talking about non-binary or non-boundaries, Grace Jones defied boundaries and binaries to create this wholly different image of Blackness. It looks like Diggable Planets or Missy Elliott or Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe's Cindy Mayweather's Space Android. It looks like the rap duo Oshun, two young Black women who channel their music from the center of the earth and from outer space, who declare themselves space-age slayers and New World goddesses. In comics and film, it looks like the Dahomey warriors brought to the screen in Warrior King, or the Dora Milaje, the comic book Wakanda imagining of those warriors into the future. It looks like Wakanda, an Africa untouched by colonization, where people access their superpowers through being in touch with their ancestors in an ancestral plane. Black history and education matter, and Black culture and imagination matters. Afrofuturism is a frame for imagination and a future that is based in liberation and thriving, where we exist and are free and are creative and wholly human. It's culture and art and music and an aesthetic, but also it is politics. When Afrofuturist activist and scholar Yatasha Womack talks to Black children about what is the future they imagine, she's expecting that they're going to tell her about spaceships and living on the moon, traveling to Mars. The future that they imagine is one without violence. Afrofuturism is a politics of creating the conditions that make Black existence and liberation possible. When Beyonce sings in Break My Soul, if you don't seek it, you won't see it. That we all know. If you don't think it, you won't be it. When I read at the African American Read-In this weekend, I read from Toni Morrison's Beloved. She puts these words into a lay preacher. She told them that the only grace they could have was the grace they could imagine. That if they could not see it, they would not have it. Afrofuturism looks like blending art and music and literature and politics because they each make the other possible. Harriet Tubman, who literally brought people to freedom, Afrofuturist. Martin Luther King, who talked about a dream, who on the eve of his death told people that he's seen the mountaintop. I won't make it with you, but I've seen it and I know it's possible. It's Mae Jemison, who is the first Black woman in space. It is Amanda Gorman. You don't have to be Black to imagine this future. It is art and culture and politics. What I have not talked about is religion. I left the religion of my childhood because it could not paint for me, show me a kind of future on this earth where I am free. It offered me a reward in heaven for my suffering on earth. But what I found in Unitarian Universalism were people saying, oh no, beloved community is right here, right now. And oh, also, by the way, it's our job to make that happen. We are people who believe in worth and dignity and justice and equality and a commitment to act on those things. I mean, maybe it's not always Afrofuturism. Maybe it's regular old futurism. When I inhabited, it's Afrofuturism. All of our principles, all of the things that we as a faith commit to, including most recently, this 8th principle, right? It talks about journeying towards spiritual wholeness. And it does talk about beloved community and multicultural diversity. But how it says we get there is by dismantling racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. What this faith offers, what it promises and challenges, is that when we work to dismantle oppression, not from a place of liberalism or altruism or benevolence or do-gooderness, but because we know that this kind of work and the world, the future that it creates will bring us wholeness. When we do that kind of work, we are imagining and creating the future where liberation is possible, where an end to violence is possible, where Black mothers can live and give birth to Black babies who live and who have sons who make it home, who are not killed in the street as they call for their mothers. When we embrace Black history and Black futures as an expression of this faith, we are living into what is most beautifully possible. We have one more spiritual to sing together. In your gray hymnal, it's 348. Guide my feet.
So. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race, no vain, race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want this race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race one day. Racing day.
If you're joining us on Zoom, the room will remain open for a few minutes after service concludes. If you're joining us in person, we hope you'll stay for some coffee and conversation in our fellowship hall. And this is my opportunity to ask you to please sign up so that you too might host our coffee hour in the fellowship hall, which is really just making coffee. If you're visiting, please do sign our guest book. Thank you to this week's greeters and hospitality hosts, Anastasia, and maybe Donna, and maybe Pam. All of the hands, I don't even know all the hands that go into making our Sunday morning so warm. And if you are staying, please also show on the whiteboard what you are doing for this week's 7-week happiness challenge. Did you make your 8-minute conversation? Tell us how it went and look for next week's challenge in your email box tomorrow. I hope you'll join us here next week when we talk about courage and resilience. And if you're joining us for the 5th time or the 500th time, or even the first time, if you do find yourself in alignment with our values and our principles, that you will find a home here. I hear you getting ready for the music. I have a very long benediction, so settle in. Because these closing words are from Amanda Gorman, who was the first National Youth Poet Laureate, youngest inaugural poet. She wrote these words for Biden's inauguration. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours. Before we know it, somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time when a skinny Black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of men. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone will sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in the bridges we've made. That is the promise to glade the hill we climb, if only we dare it. Because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust. For while we have our eyes to the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised, but whole, benevolent, but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted or intimidated, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of a next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain. If we merge mercy and might with right, then love becomes our legacy, and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. And we will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, recover in every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it. If only we are brave enough to be it.
Clap the hand. Go. Yeah, through many hardships, toils and snares, we have already come. Help me out of this place. But it's great that brought us to the world. Yeah, it's great. Somebody say, yeah. Oh, yeah. Chicka, 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 chicka. Meow. Yet it was grace, grace that taught my heart to fear. And it was grace, my fear. How precious, how precious, how precious was that memory. Don't we first let's sing the verse together. Amazing grace. Amazing grace. How sweet. Clap your hands. Down. Clap like black people on the 2 and 4. Well, no. Let that thing about white do it on the 1 and 3. One more time, I got one more thing to say. This is dedicated to little Walter from Chicago. It's Sonny Boy Williamson from Mississippi. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Reverend Kimberly.
With energy and exuberance, we extinguish our flame with the unison words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame